Tyler Zeller thought he had the weekend off.
No, never.
He had gone to the beach retreat and gone off the grid. But then we sent up the Z signal up into the sky on Franklin Street and called him in to talk Tar Heels with us. So, Tyler Zeller, thanks so much for coming back in from your weekend of luxury to
Can you
talk
ever
about the win over Wake.
can you ever talk Tar Heel too much though? I mean, we were at the game. I had the family there. It was a fun night.
So, did you actually see the game?
I watched most of it. The
Okay.
2-year-old eating the Chick-fil-A sandwich was a little interesting. I missed a few things along the way, but yes, I watched most of it. It was fun.
Take these waffle fries. I need to watch the Tar Heels run the offense.
Hey, he was all about that fried chicken sandwich. He was all over it. And then I gave him the bread and he just like so the challenge was to him not kicking the person in front of him. I do feel bad for whoever sat right in front of him.
Ah,
Sorry, Phil Ford.
yeah, sorry, we'll all deal with it. So, Z, from what you did see of the game, what'd you think? This was an interesting game. It felt like Carolina controlled the action for the first 30 minutes pretty consistently. The
Yep.
Tar Heels led between, felt like maybe 6 and 15 for most of that time period. But then something that we have seen from this team, a lengthy offensive drought of more than 6 minutes. Then another opposing team's point guard starts taking over the game and Nate
Yep.
Calmise, and it almost cost Carolina this game. Fortunately, the Heels held on, but felt like almost two distinct games here, the first 30 minutes and the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I honestly, as a player, that 30-minute or 10 minutes left in the second half, I'm sitting there. They call that timeout. We're up 15. I'm like, all right, we're good. Like, we got this. And unfortunately, the players came out of the timeout with the exact same sentiment, I think. And all of a sudden, it's a 6 to 8 point game very quickly. And so I think at that point, you got to make sure you stretch that lead up to 20 or at least push it up and come out and put them away. I mean, then you're up 15 to 20 with 8 minutes left, and it's a game changer rather than giving them hope, giving them life. And they almost got it done. I mean, they made a heck of a comeback. Calmise was very, very good in those last 10 minutes. And some of it was our defense. Some of it was he just made some difficult shots. And so, but I think the first 30 minutes, I love the way we started the game. We were getting steals. We were getting out in transition. Caleb Wilson and Vasar, as usual, were really good inside. And then for Wilson to only have 2 shots in the second half, I know he had fouled a lot and free throws, but like only have 2 shots. We got to figure that out. He's too talented, too good. Even if he can't get to the rim and shoot layups, he's got incredible shots, and we got to find a way to get him the ball more.
Okay, so Caleb Wilson's first half numbers against ACC opponents, and I get that's only 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's 16 for 23 with 23 rebounds, and he's plus 15. That's in 52 minutes. In the second half of these same ACC games, he's 7 for 12 with 12 rebounds, and he's minus 18 in 53 minutes. What what accounts for that? That's a dramatic difference.
Well, the big difference is the SMU second half is a large portion of that. But I mean, he came out, SMU did great on him. We were catching the ball off the block. They adjusted and they just sent the guy to strong side lane so they didn't double team him. And it closed up the whole lane. And then we started chucking from three. They started making shots. He went highly negative. I think in the second half, we have to find a way to be more intentional, but also Caleb Wilson plays incredibly hard. I think there's a matter of he might be getting I'm not saying he's out of shape, but I think he gets a little worn out. He's trying to play 35 plus minutes. We played 27 to 30, 32 on a good, like he's just playing so many minutes. You can't maintain that over a 40-minute game. And so I think there's times where I wish we could get him more breaks, and we got a little bit of a deeper team this year than last year. And I think he could be more effective, to your point, in the second half if he had just a little bit more of a break, a little more legs, a little more. But he's also so valuable; it's hard to get him out and find those minutes.
Z, is hitting the wall like a real thing in a
Yes.
season? Like, I mean, it not so much yesterday against Wake or Saturday against Wake Forest, but I thought Vasar in particular, a couple games looked almost a little bit just sluggish. I feel like you see this with guys where around this time of year, maybe all of a sudden it does, and then it normally comes back. Is that a real thing, or is that just something we talk about for people who are watching the game?
It's definitely a real thing. You see it a ton in the NBA because it's just the amount of games and it continuously goes. But I agree with you. Vasar, he took a huge leap in minutes as well as role, as well as energy. I mean, when you're playing 14 minutes and you're like, hey, go rebound, block a couple shots, and you're not having to enforce your will on the offensive end as well as defensive. And we ask him to do so much. I think, yeah, he's probably getting fatigued, but also it gets harder and harder as you become the first, and he's probably the second option behind Wilson. You just get so much attention. And so all of a sudden, instead of beating your man, you're now trying to beat your man and the double team. And then after the double team, you're trying to repost and get a rebound. And so you're just putting so much more energy into what you have to do night in and night out. So you kind of hit that wall of all these adjustments, all this energy, all this, and you just get fatigued both emotionally, mentally, and physically. And then as time comes around, the tournament starts coming around, you get a little more lighthearted, you get, light at the end of the tunnel a little bit, and then you start to ramp it back up. But I mean, there's a lot of games like Wake's one of those games where they're not Duke. They're not, I mean, they're a good team, but they're also not a team you're like, I got to have it tonight. I'm so excited. Like, you got to go out and win this game. And they did a great job of, I told somebody yesterday, I was like, we had a 15-point buffer, thankfully, because we relaxed and all of a sudden it's a close game. Whereas a lot of times last year, other times we'd be up five and all of a sudden you're down five. And then you're really in a dogfight and trying to figure it out.
Z, we know that Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar are good, and the other team knows that too. So they want to prevent the Tar Heels from beating them with those two guys. And I
Mhm.
think put together, Caleb and Henry had two field goals over the final 12 minutes of the game
Yeah.
against Wake. When the other team knows exactly what you're going to do and is trying everything they can to take that away, what's the best way to still try to utilize those guys to make them impactful on the game?
I think we do some of it. You got to run a pick and roll. You got to make them, but our guards have to turn the corner with the intention of scoring. Seth Trimble's the only one I see come off a pick and roll and really turn the corner, and all of a sudden he's getting downhill trying to score rather than just trying to dump it off. Sometimes I think Kyan Evans will turn the corner and he's just trying to throw that bounce pass every time, and there's two people on Basar or Wilson or whoever. I think the other part is, you throw it into the post, you get double teamed, we throw it out and immediately shoot it, either first or second pass. Sometimes you got to either drive it back in or repost. That was one that we always were taught with Coach Williams was, hey, if you get double teamed, throw it out and then duck in as hard as you can, catch it closer to the basket, catch it and immediately go up. And Wilson did a good job in the first half. When he caught the ball, the double team couldn't get there because he's so close to the basket. Second half, I felt like they started pushing him out. He got double teamed more. Just it's harder for him to score, and they start packing it in. And thankfully, Jaden Young made some threes yesterday. He was really good. He's been a guy all year that shot the ball well. Hopefully, he can continue to progress and get better and better from three, and just really kind of stretch it out. Because you make a couple threes, all of a sudden, all right, we can't just pack it in. They're going to run it off and take that up from 15 up to 20, 25 in a hurry if we do.
And Adam, I could ask this just as easily to you. You've watched this just like Z and I have. Where do we think the Tar Heels are in the backcourt right now? It feels like Jonathan Powell and Jaden Young are going this way and earning more minutes. You don't want to lose Kyan Evans and Luka Bogovac as far as their contributions and their ability to be able to help the team. But it feels like right now Carolina is still really trying to figure that out on what's the best combination. Z, is that like are we, is the best plan of attack, we're getting to this game and let's just see who it is today? Or are you trying to get this in a more stable, consistent, you have a pretty good idea how you're going to attack it with multiple options from the backcourt?
I think you got to try to keep 8 to 10 confident people. And so, Bogovac is struggling right now. Evans has been up and down. I think you got to be able to keep them involved. But we've seen many games where Evans has been okay and Dixon comes in and plays better, and Dixon will play 25 plus minutes, even though he didn't start. Dixon has been okay recently. Hopefully he continues to come back, make some shots. He's a guy who can make an open three if he can get it. But with Trimble back, those minutes are much more limited. There's just more people in that back trying to make it work. And so I love what Trimble's doing. I think he's getting downhill. He's creating opportunities. But you're right. I think it's Jaden Young, Stevenson. We slid back to the three to start. Powell. All those guys are hopefully going to continue to progress, start to make some threes, and then we got to find a way to get Bogovac more involved. I felt like SMU, he was more under control and making plays and doing the right thing, and then sometimes he just gets sporadic and doesn't benefit our team as much as we need him to. And then Kai and Evans, just sometimes his size. I think the guards in the ACC have gotten into him. They've realized, hey, we can really pressure him, make it difficult on him, and he's got to find a way to be able to get off, get a little distance. Part of that's pick and rolls. We got to set better screens. Our team will screen at times, but overall, we don't set very good screens. And so I think if we do that, we can get a little more pressure off him and hopefully get him to make some shots. I mean, 1 of 6 last night is tough.
Adam, what do you think?
One thing Hubert Davis always says is, I can't coach you if I don't know you. This feels like a time of year where knowing them is going to be important because Luca especially, like
Mm-hmm.
you've got to salvage something there. Like he can't just fade away and not play and not be impactful because when he's good, he does a lot of things this team needs in addition to making the shots. He's a smart player. He makes smart plays when he's engaged. And so I think you really got to give a lot of thought to, how do I keep him from checking out, because Carolina needs him. The other guy is Jonathan Powell. In ACC games, which again, it's only 3, he's plus 22. That's far and away the highest of any uh, Tar Heel in the backcourt. Luca, for example, is minus 18 in those
Yep.
same games and hasn't been positive in an ACC game yet. So I think you might have to ride with some Jonathan Powell mistakes. We saw him at SMU. There was at least one instance where he was in. Tar Heels were running an inbounds play. He didn't go to the right place and came right out.
Mm-hmm.
You might just have to ride through that because he's giving you some things athletically and shooting wise and defensively. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
he's a little mean, which I kind of like. And the Tar Heels need that. They need a little meanness. So that just may be something you have to get through with him and accept that he may not always be in exactly the right spot, but just kind of get through it. And maybe he makes a 3 the next time down, and we can forget that you were a couple steps in the wrong place.
He's got a little Cormac Ryan in him. It's kind of who he reminds me of. Not quite shooting at the same level as him, but he can get aggressive. He can almost get to the point of fighting somebody, not actually fighting somebody, but make that gritty play that we need more of.
Adam, before we look forward here to this trip to the West Coast with Tyler, anything else from Wake that you wanted to bring up, or any other kind of past storylines to talk about?
No, you mentioned Jaden Young, who I do think is important. I know I'm predisposed to the North Carolina guys and the guys who really appreciate playing for the Tar Heels, and we know from when Jaden Young was in there with us that he does that. But I do think he just feels it a little more. And you need that guy. Like, you may not need him to start, but when you bring him off the bench and he can make that impact, I think that's important. And then just figuring out how to get 40 minutes of contributions out of your 2 best players. Uh, Carolina, you can't be in the. It was interesting watching so many ACC games on Saturday because you would have so many people discussing, like, here's where the league is. The Tar Heels never came up in those discussions in terms of the best team in the league. If you're going to be in that discussion, you've got to figure out how to utilize these 2 players you have that are better than almost anyone else for a full game to beat the other teams that are in those discussions. Because I do think Carolina has the potential to be that, but right now they are not. So that's the job going forward.
Who did other than Duke? I'm guessing. Who else came up?
Virginia and Louisville,
Hmm.
which Louisville gets a huge benefit of the doubt because people like Pat Kelsey. But I mean, that Boston College almost got them at Louisville on Saturday. And Virginia, they're doing a great job, it seems like. And the Tar Heels have to go there later this month, so we'll see. But it's just frustrating to me that we're here in almost mid-January and the Tar Heels aren't in that conversation when I do think they have the potential to be that type of team, but you're going to have to start putting that on paper.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Carolina's sitting here at 14-2, and yet I feel like more of the feeling around Carolina is what it doesn't do well versus what it does do well. So we'll see how that plays out as we move forward. And the next steps, of course, are to the West Coast. Um, Adam looked it up. Adam made Adam made sure we got this exactly right and would never say anything other than this. Wake Forest is the only men's team, talking men's basketball, that went out to the West Coast and won both games on the West Coast trip since Stanford and Cal joined the ACC. So Z, this is a challenging trip for a lot of reasons. One, it's a long way away.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you're there for a long time. Three, Stanford and Cal are neither one of them are juggernauts this year, but they are
Mm-hmm.
both better than they were a season ago. Stanford has one of the better freshmen in the conference, and that's saying something because there's a lot of good freshmen in this conference. So, from your experience, both college and then, of course, in the NBA, what does happen when you're going on one of these longer trips? What are the challenges just individually as a player to get yourself to try to play as close to your best as possible?
Well, first of all, everybody who's flown cross country knows jet lag is real. I mean, you're going to mess with your time schedule. When do you get up? When do you do this? The good part is you don't have class. You're probably going to have some homework. You're going to have to keep up with some stuff school wise, but at the same time, you can kind of pick and choose when you're going to do it. You're going to have a schedule, basically practice and games. We are traveling on Monday. We don't play till Wednesday, so you get one day there to kind of buffer it. And honestly, going out, they're good at home.
Yeah.
Stanford was 8-1 last year at home, with Wake being their only loss, and Stanford came and beat us at our place last year, and so we're going to have to be ready. It's not You can't sleep on either of these teams. They've shown they can win in a really really decisive way if you sleep on them. They're very winnable games, but I think we got to go up. Everything you guys are saying is the same thing I'm thinking. You got to find a way to get Wilson and Basar going early, try to get a lead, build a little bit of a buffer similar to Wake, and then hopefully be able to push that lead out further rather than letting them go on a run, because they've shown they can come from behind, be able to find a way to win. So um, the game I'm extremely worried about is actually Notre Dame coming back. I feel like it's even harder to fly from the West Coast back to the East Coast. You got 4 days, play on Saturday, and then come back and play Notre Dame on Wednesday. That's a big time to be able to get back. You're going to have to go back to class on Monday, adjust to the schedule, all that. So this 3-game stretch here, we got to be able to find a way to win, hopefully all three, but definitely at least two to be able to continue. And if you win all three, you get back in that conversation of best teams in the ACC.
Z, what's the difference between a team that gets up 15 and then gets up 22 versus a team that gets up 15 and then it's down to 7 and you're sweating a little bit? Like, I feel like you guys, when you guys got up 15, you didn't stop. It got to 20. It got to 22. Like, what's the mindset? What has to happen to be that team?
You got to realize, like I said, even as a fan, I at that 10-minute timeout, we're up 15, I relaxed. And in a game as a player, you got to realize, all right, I can't relax yet. Like, the game's not over. And John Henson used to always joke with me. He's like, when you smiled, I knew we were good. He goes, that was the point I could relax, because I was very much, all right, we're up. If they go on one more run, if we go on a little run, this game's over. Like, they'll give up at 8 minutes up 20. And so you got to get to the point where they give up, because they're going to have one more big push. And so knowing that timeout at 10 minutes up 15, all right, we got to withstand one push in the next probably 2 to 4 minutes. If we do that, this game's over. And you saw it last night. Wake went on that push, gave them a little hope, a little life, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, we can do this. And it just changes that perspective. Whereas if you withstand that, even if you keep it at 15 at the under 8-minute timeout, it's like, all right, we gave everything we had for 2 minutes. We still don't make any progress. And it just kind of helps that hope fade away for them. And you can walk away with a win.
See, if we're on that plane on Monday and one of the current Tar Heels takes off their headphones and comes back to Tyler Zeller and says, Tyler Zeller, as someone who has done this exact trip for several years in your professional life, what is something you could tell me that I could do that would make a tangible difference in how I perform this coming week? What would you tell him?
I think the one thing, the time, I like the time of the games. We're not playing super late where it's midnight our time, the 2 o'clock on Saturday. I would try to stay, obviously you're not going to stay on your Eastern Coast time sleep schedule, but I would try to stay similar. I think that's one of the biggest things for me. Going out there, you're going to wake up way too early, but try to sleep in a little bit if you can.
Don't worry, Z, I got that covered. I'll be able to sleep in late enough for all of us. Don't worry about it.
but trying to minimize the jet lag, but also um, get out and walk. It's kind of funny, like they'll have practice and all that, but like you're in the hotel for 5 or 6 days. It's easy to just be like, all right, I went to practice, now I'm done. So get out, move around a little bit. Don't sit around for the other, I don't know, whatever, 8 to 10 hours of the day. If you can just get out and do something, it changes, I don't know, the energy and everything around it. You don't feel so sluggish going into the games. And thankfully they'll have a lot of meals and all that along the way. But that was my biggest one. Just the times I sat in the hotel, I really struggled in the game. Whereas if I got out and felt active like I would around campus or, practice and all that at home, you feel just more normal.
All right, so this West Coast trip starts on Wednesday. Carolina and Stanford is the start to that one. And then Carolina will stay on the West Coast. They're going to drive up to the Berkeley area the next day, change hotels, and then go and get ready for California on Saturday. Big two games upcoming. Z will be with us on the radio for the whole time, and we look forward to bringing you in those games. Tyler, thanks for a few minutes today, and look forward to being with you here over the next week.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.